Ladies and gentlemen, now we're actually moving into Et02, or my students, we're now moving into Et02. In this Et02, what we're really going to be dealing with is Hsl, which stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. Okay, so I have a couple more images here, and for example, than we really need, but I just want to give you an idea of what it does. And when you really turn it in, though, just only turn in 3. And then as also mentioned as well, for this first week of assignment or first enhancement theory, Et01 and Et02 are combined together. Okay, so let's take a look at this quickly here and what we can do. I'm going to work on this image here because it has a lot of colors and it will explain to us really quickly what it does. Go into development module. All right, so now that I've actually come into the development module, every single image that you bring in to work, even in Enhancement Theory 2 or any other Enhancement Theory as well, what I really would like you to do is work on the basic adjustment first. Always play with the basic to make your images look good before you go in to play with anything else. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to quickly bump up the contrast, change the midtone a little bit, and hey, the image is already looking pretty good so far. That's good. Okay, change the white point a little bit, black. All right, I'm good right here. Now, this is where we're really going to be focusing on. It's under Hsl. So let's go ahead and click on Hsl right there. And it bring us up to 3 things when you click on Hsl: hue, saturation, and luminance. Now, some of you might wonder, what does the word color thing means on the side? If you click on color, you get the same thing, the hue, saturation, and luminance. In this case, you're changing the individual color itself by clicking all on top here. Or you can click on all at the end and change all these colors, which I find, color a little bit cumbersome. It takes a little bit more time for me. I personally like Hsl. And you can go on different one, hue, saturation, and luminance. Or you can click on all as well, and it will show you all 3. I personally would click on one at a time just because otherwise you will be on the wrong settings and not realize that you're on the wrong setting until you already apply that, and you're going to get confused. So I would just kind of target the one that we want and just click on the next one, so on and so forth. Okay, so in hue saturation, in this case, what happens, let's start out with the saturation because this is where the fun happens. Let's say we're going to look at the tones, the blue tones in our image here, which is a few of these, and a few of these are actually overlapping tones as well. What I can simply do is come in and dial the blue up like so, and you can kind of see the blue becomes somewhat, well, not that much punchier, not that much more desaturated. Well, desaturation happens, you can kind of see there, it becomes gray. Or bluer, as you can kind of see, or this is like the default value right there. Okay, the thing about dialing these things up and down by yourself is that it increases the chance of what we call posterization, and it's because the blue is not really only blue. Blue has a lot of other color that correlates to it. For example, there's aqua, and if you go into the really deep blue part, there's purple that's associated with it. So I like to use this tool right here. It's called a target color selector right there. And if I bring this tool out, just click on it, bring it out, and notice how if I bounce it around different color and image, it's just, look at the highlights over here. It changes as I hover it over different color. Red highlights red, blue highlights blue, green highlights somewhat aqua. This is really kind of strange, but it's okay. Let's see, we have other colors. If I go into yellow, it highlights yellow, orange. This is more yellow, this is orange. You can kind of see there. So how do we use this tool? Alright, what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to enhance this blue color. I'm just going to click on my mouse, and the best way to think about it is if I push my mouse up, I'm going to increase the saturation, or if I pull my mouse down, I'm going to decrease the saturation. The interesting thing about this is that if I hold my mouse down and just click to apply this, the cursor will disappear, as I'm going to show you right now. So if I click on it, the cursor disappear. It doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong. It just means that it's in active mode. Okay, so let's say I want to punch up these blue colors. So I can click here on the blue, and I'm just going to literally push my mouse up. If you look at the panels on the side right there, notice how the blue is coming up a lot, but the aqua is also proportionately being increased as well. This is the factor here that will eliminate image posterization for us. I'm going to do the thing with the aqua as well. I'm going to pull the aqua up. Notice how when I pull the aqua up, making it more punchy, the green goes up as well, proportionately. Again, same thing with the yellow. Orange here, it pulls up the yellow as well. And if I go into the yellow, Yellow also adjusts to orange, so it plays around with the tones rather nicely. I'm going to reset this here. And again, you have the opportunity to come through. Let's say I want to come into the red here and take all the reds out. Notice though that when I take one red out, it not only takes one red, it takes all the red out in my image that are in different areas. This is a global adjustment tools, okay? Again, if I actually come in here and take this blue out, blue aqua, it takes not only the blue aqua out and the one that I selected, it takes it out everywhere, including the one that has somewhat of the green aqua as well. So if you can kind of see there, something to pay attention to when you're adjusting these, okay? So this is HSL. Now, I'm going to show you luminance, okay? And in this case, in saturation, what we have done, do something here. In this case, in saturation, what we have done is when we pull up the blue and the aqua, in this case, I'm going to show that to you, we make the color more vibrant, punchier, more snap, add that wow factor to it. I'm going to show us now what happens when we actually play with the luminance instead. Let's go into the luminance here. If I come into the luminance, if I actually click on the blue, again, same principle apply regarding a slider. I'm going to brighten this blue up. Notice how it brightens up the color. It didn't change the wow factor to blue. It just brightens up the blue and the aqua. Let's reset that. Let's try to darken this down. See if it gets any more saturated. No, it just makes that blue a darker blue. It doesn't add that wow factor or pop factor as we see earlier. This is with luminance. This is the adjustment we made with the saturation. Notice how the blue is a lot more poppy and versus with the saturation. I mean, I can try to reset this in luminance. And let's increase this. It just makes the blue lighter. It doesn't add that pop value to it. Okay, so again, these tools work differently, but it's how you use them in conjunction with each other that makes them work out really well. Lastly, what I'd like to show us here is the possibility of using hue to change the color that already exists in our image. So I'm going to click on hue here, and again, make sure the target color selector is selected here. Let's say I want to change the blue color. I can change this green aqua blue color into the very deep blue right here to almost purple, or change it into a really green color as well. Look at the colors here on these bars. It kind of gives you an indicator of what will change. I'm going to click on here and push up. Let's say I want to push this to really, really deep blue, as you can kind of see. But notice though, because we have so many close tones, this aqua in the beginning change, or this blue in the beginning change more to deep purple as well. And all the other tones change. And again, it can change the red into a really deep magenta. Like so. I'm going to change the green. Let's say I'm going to change the green into a yellow. Or, you know, let's change the green into a very deep green. There you go. I'm going to change this relation a little bit there and push this relationship up. So you can really mess around with your images differently and changes drastically the way how your image looks from here to here. Or from the original, which I'm going to show you right now, to one that has a better color tones in the blue, to one that has a darker or lighter blue, and to one that the color totally changes from the original image itself. So where would something like this apply to real life? Let's take a look at this one here. This is a funny thing because they put the sticker of this guy holding this bar here, right there. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and push in the contrast there. This is a picture I shot in Italy. I thought it was kind of funny with the man in the bar. That bar he's raiding. This is like a no entry sign in the street. Pull the recovery back, put in some of the highlights, bring the black back a little bit, make it a little bit true black. Perfect, like that. Now I can actually come into HSL. And in this case, I can change the red. If I come into the hue here, I can actually make this a kind of like a yellow sign. Or if I want to, I can make this a magenta sign as well, as you can kind of see when I pull the red up and down. Let's reset that. I can also come in and change the red in this image. I can make the red punchier red, deeper red, like you see here. You don't see a lot there because the red's already rather saturated. Or I can take the red color out entirely and make it just like really dull, like so. Okay. Again, reset that. Where you're really going to see the change in this image is under luminance. Let's say I'm going to darken the red. I can really darken the red, or I can really lighten the red and make the red just really neon glowy. Okay, so this is what it was before, and notice how I make the red like really neon glow like that. So you can also come in and play around with the different tones in the image like that as well. Next image here. This is probably going to be the most practical example of using HSL. I'm going to change the tone a little bit, bring the sky back, put in some fill light, change the white point, make sure it's punchy, black points, optimize some tones. I'm going to come into HSL now, and notice how I just skipped the vibrancy and the saturation in general, because in HSL it does almost the same thing, but I have a lot more control over the tones in my image. Okay, so I'm going to pull the saturation up, click on the target color selector, and go around the sky. I'm going to darken this, I'm going to make this blue a deeper blue. So I'm going to click on the sky and just literally push my mouse up. Notice how I gain a lot more blue in the sky, but if you have a white building in shadows, you will also increase the tone of that as well. A couple ways to correct that. As of now, we can come back in and finesse with the white balance a little bit to kind of get rid of that. As you can kind of see, it bump up the white balance a little bit. It got rid of that. Pretty good. I'm going to come back and HSL under luminance. Let's say I want the sky to be deep, deep, deep blue. I'm going to come into the sky here, target color selector, under luminance, click on the sky, and really just drag and pull it down. Notice how I'm really drastically changing the sky right now. Okay, let's see if we can see a before and after. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you a before image. This is a before image that we have. This is what we've done to it afterwards. It's only a few adjustments to make your image pop out. Again, in Italy, this is La Fontana di Trevi. Pretty cool fountain there. A lot of people, if you can kind of see, it's hard to avoid them, although I tried my best. We're going to increase the contrast first, pull in some recovery there, bring back some of the details, bring the shadow up. In this case, I'm going to go back and change the exposure to midtone a little bit, because once I pull the highlight down, sometimes it really darkens your image, so you have to kind of play around with that. Change the white, bring down the blacks. Let's be fun about this. So first of all, I'm going to show you a really kind of innocent way of changing this picture. I'm going to click on saturation, target color selector here, and I'm just going to saturate the water in the fountain just like that. Okay, let's say you think that's a little bit too neon-y. You can actually pull it back a little bit. We'll pull it back just a touch. There you go. And I'm going to darken the water. Let's say the water is really, really deep saturated color there. Kind of see that? Now, if I wasn't, if I want to be a little bit more mischievous, I'm going to come in and change the color of the water. I'm going to reset the luminance, the saturation. I'm going to go into hue this time. Let's see what we can do. I can turn this water probably blue, like in the ocean. Okay, or I can really change the tone and turn this water totally ugly green, or I think green looks better in this case. Let's turn this water blue here in this case, and let's go into saturation again, and let's kind of increase the saturation on here, see how it looks. So if you can kind of see there, I've actually successfully made a really deep blue water from the original that was kind of greenish like that. Or what I can also do is come in here and use the hue with the saturation luminance already adjusted. As you can kind of see here, this is saturation, it's luminance, it's hue. I'm going to come in and play around with the hue now. Let's actually make this water even more green. You can kind of do that as well. Okay, so if you can kind of see there, you can really change tones and colors in your image, as you can kind of see right there. A few more things here. HSL still. Again, every time you bring an image up, always work with the image in basic first. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Change the midtones, pull the highlight back a little bit, put in some shadows, put the white, change black. The standard stuff we usually do. You can kind of get an idea by this point. When we come to HSL here, this one's could be really fun. You can really change the color of the wall to really, really brown if you want to, kind of a yellowish brown, or we can actually turn the ball into a magenta wall as well, which is kind of rather interesting. Okay, let's say we're going to do a little bit lighter magenta like that, magenta orange. This is what it was before. I'm going to change the color, make it more interesting by pulling it down to this magenta orange. You can still come in and put in more saturation in there, make a deeper color. And you can also come in and change that color and see if you want a really light wall, you can come in and add more paint there, more light to it. Or if you want a really dark wall with a really, really dark red, you can do that as well. So you can come use the luminance to change the brightness, and use the saturation to change the wow factor. Use the hue to kind of just change the color itself to the tones that you like. Okay. One more example here. This is our last one. Just to kind of show you here. Increase the contrast, exposure, pull back the highlight, fill the shadow, set the whites, change the blacks. You know, the standard stuff. Come in HSL. Let's see if we can play with hue. Let's say I don't like that yellow. I want it more orange. I can do that. Although in this case, because a lot of mitigating tones, it doesn't work out too well. So I'm not going to do that so much in this one. See if I make this more yellow. No, I still don't like this as much. So I probably wouldn't necessarily play with with the hue necessarily in this image. Let's go over to saturation. So you can make this yellow more yellow. Ooh, kind of like that. That's really nice. Or you can actually make this yellow a little bit desat as well, like that. So you have control over your image. In this case, let's make it a little bit punchier yellow-orange tone. And let's come into luminance here, and let's darken this, see what we can do. Wow, that's kind of different. You can also lighten this up too, just like that. Although, I don't think lightening work good. I would probably come and darken the tones a little bit. So again, if I show you what it was before, this image here. This is kind of what it was before. This is after, before, and after. Again, I'll show you before and after for the wall as well, the other one. As you can kind of see here, this is what it was before and after. Okay, so the whole point of what we're going over here is really for you to play with the tools. Don't think you're going to do something wrong, because you can always go back and change it, or always reset it back to default. Okay, I hope you find this helpful, and we'll be seeing you in class soon.